Hello. We have found a book tag that we wanted to do before Christmas because it's Christmassy themed. This is the Carol of the Bells tag, and it was apparently recently created by Lovely Day with Holly, and I found it from Chantel Reads All Day. So we're just going to go through it. Sir Tonk hasn't seen any of the prompts. As always, he's just going to... Prep work. Yeah, prep work is for suckers, I guess. So, we'll just talk about some books and talk about Christmas carols. All right, so the first prompt is It Came Upon a Midnight Clear, and this is a book with a nighttime scene on the cover. So, am I going first?
I don't care.
Okay, so I'm going with The New Girl, which is, I think, the first Fear Street book, because there's a moon, and it's creepy, and it's nighttime. So that's one, and I love Fear Street, so, yeah. And what I'm trying to do recently with, tags is I'm going to try to, just kind of go down, my list of books on my Goodreads and just pick, the first thing that comes up rather than, constantly going back to the same 5 or 6 books, because that's what I can think of. So hopefully we'll see a little variety in this list. So that's my nighttime cover, is Fear Street, The New Girl.
Not me. I'm going to try to pick the same 5 books over and over again. No.
Okay.
I love moon covers. Yeah. I love nighttime covers. I love moons. Yes. So I'm going to go with a book that has a pretty cool cover. It's Summer of Night by Dan Simmons. It's kind of a dusky evening with a moon in a road. Summer of Night is, of course, I think it'd be fair to say that it's Crappy It. You could say that. They don't really have the two timelines, but there's a group of kids. They're encountering an evil entity, and they punch in the cubes. So, yeah, Crappy It. There you go, Summer Night. Good cover. Okay, book.
That's Dan Simmons, right?
I already said Dan Simmons, but yes, it's still Dan Simmons.
I was going to read Hyperion. That was only 24 for 24, only to discover apparently Dan Simmons is not a very nice man. And apparently he's super, super racist and homophobic.
Yeah.
And, while I can kind of just ignore it with people from 100 years ago and be well, times were different. I mean, the guy's still around, and you can't really be homophobic now and racist now and excuse that. So I don't think I'm going to read Hyperion anymore, which is too bad because I really love Keats.
Great. So anyway, there's a moon on the cover.
Was it racist?
No, this one wasn't racist.
It was probably before he was racist.
Or he was
I think he just got old and racist.
Subtle enough I didn't pick up on it.
No, I think he used to be kind of cool, and then, I don't know, he lost his mind apparently when Obama got elected.
Great.
Like a lot of people. All right, so the next one is A Little Town of Bethlehem, and this is a book set in a small town. So while Sir Chong picks his Stephen King option, I'm going to go with Life as We Knew It. I'm pretty sure this is in a small town, because part of the point is that they're far from their neighbors, they're not in a city. I mean, it definitely feels like a small town, because this is a book about the moon gets really close to Earth, it falls out of its orbit, and so essentially they're in a survivalist kind of situation. Really, really interesting book. I think it's a diary or epistolary. Maybe not. I feel like it was, but
yeah,
it's a journal, right? Entry. Yeah. And it is set in, I believe it's a small town in Pennsylvania. So that was the first thing that on my list I thought hit this prompt. So that's what we're going with.
All right. So, yeah, small towns. Clotilde's right. It's a choose your Stephen King option here. I'm going to go with one of the small towns I thought was probably more interesting, and that's the town whose name I'm drawing a blank on, from Under the Dome. Grover's
Dome Land.
Grover's Armpit.
That's Grover's Corners from our town.
Right. Our dome town. Anyway, so Under the Dome is a pretty chunky book. I believe it's over 1,100 pages. But it reads pretty quick for most of it. And the small town elements are really entertaining. Well fleshed out. Very great characters. A lot of excellent character dynamics. The ending is one of the worst endings of any book I've ever read in my entire life. But aside from that, it's a very good book.
All right. So the next one is Joy to the World, and this is a book with a global setting. So I'm going with Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants because it's literally set in multiple places around the globe, while the 4 characters are split up over the summer. That's the whole point of the pants traveling. So, you've got Greece, you have, I believe, one is in California, and then maybe Mexico City at some point. and a couple places in the U.S. And then somebody, I feel like, goes to, like, at one point goes to France in one of them. But this is, you know, I mean, it's not super global. I guess it's pretty Western. But I don't know. There's not a lot of, like, books that take world tours. And this felt pretty global.
One with a kind of a similar book. It's called Brotherhood of the Sojourning Jock. And what it is a group of young lads.
Stop making up books.
They share a jock strap.
That's disgusting.
And they travel. They put it in the washing machine.
No.
And they travel the world and have adventures. I know one of them, Deacon, goes to Peru and he makes out with a shrub.
Can you pick an actual book?
What are you saying? This isn't a real book?
It's not a real book.
It is in my head.
Pick a book that goes around the world.
Around the world in 80 days.
Yeah, well, that goes around the world.
They sure do go around the world in that book, and they do it in under 3 months.
Did you read it?
Let's not speak about that.
Okay. It didn't say you had to read it. It just said name a book. It's global, so I guess he wins on that.
Well, why did we use Brotherhood of the Sojourning?
Because that's not a real book.
You're not a real book.
You could have gone with, like, Song of Ice and Fire books, because those are global. They're just not our globe.
You pick those books in every time we do a book tag.
Yeah, but I didn't yet. All right, Silent Night. This is a book where an element of silence is part of the story. So I am going to go with Book Thief because there's a whole plot where basically, you know, they're hiding a Jewish man in World War II during the Nazi occupation. So clearly there's a lot of silence, you know, trying to pretend that there's not somebody living in their basement and, you know, so on. So, I don't know. Is there a Doctor Who book about the silence? That's what I came up with, The Book Thief.
All right. I'm going to go with Alien by Alan Dean Foster because it has, of course, the famous tagline in space, no one can hear you scream or whistle, actually. And although silence is not a huge part of it, there are some parts of the book where they're sneaking around and they got to be quiet or else the alien's going to be like, skibbity bop, tag, you're it, deceased.
Okay. So the next one is I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, and this is a book where the main characters are a married couple, or some of the main characters are a married couple. So I'm going with The Lovely Bones because this is a story where...
It's the blue one.
Yeah, well, you can deal with it later in a different font. And so this is a story where obviously the parents and their marriage is a key plot, you know, one of the main story arcs. They aren't married, spoiler, through the whole book because after, you know, the rape and murder of their daughter, it's, you know, things don't work out so well. It's hard to hold their marriage together. But that's a huge part of the story is like how they deal with this, how it affects their marriage, how their marriage like can handle some of the things that are going on. The dad can't like go of like the crime and is still trying to investigate. So obviously the marriage and their being a couple is pretty key, and they are obviously main characters. What about you? Think of a book with main characters who are married.
All right, I'm going to go with a classic. Give me that Great Gatsby.
Oh, yep.
We got Tom and Daisy. They're all married, and Gatsby's trying to horn on in there.
Also has a blue cover.
He's like, hey, man, do you like shirts? Do you like pink cars? Do you like that Gatsby penis? Yeah, that's a direct quote from the book. All right, yeah, famous story. You guys know. It's a married couple that are kind of pieces of garbage, but what are you going to do?
All right, so the next one is Away in a Manger, and this is set on a farm or including farm animals. And so I'm going with Foe by Ian Reid. I'm actually going to be doing a review of the movie shortly. I had already done like a pre-movie kind of prep, but I like this book, and it's set on a farm. It's set in the future on a farm, but it's still a farm. So that's my book.
So for my lack of prep, I have to take the most obvious one possible. I'm going to go with Animal Farm.
Right?
It's about animals on a farm. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. Are mice comrades? Who knows for sure? Look out for the glue truck. Animal Farm.
That's one interesting summary. All right. I mean, there's a lot of books because, like, there's The Ranch of Mice and Men. That's a farm.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks for your input.
I'll Be Home for Christmas. This is a book where a character is trying to get home. So I am going to go with A Dance with Dragons.
Oh,
because, again, this is, I know we said it was global, but this whole series is basically Dani trying to get back to Westeros. I mean, she certainly takes her sweet-ass time to do it. I mean,
she's a Marine for like 12 years.
Has she even left Essos yet in the books?
No.
No, she's not even close.
She's just sitting Marine.
They haven't even figured out the Sons of the Harpy yet, right?
No.
They just got started.
Well, they didn't just get started, but they haven't resolved it, I believe.
Yeah, there's still a lot going on, but obviously the whole plot is she wants to get home. So yeah, that's about getting home. And I mean, to some degree, Arya, but then she kind of decided not to go home, and yeah, so and Sansa's still trying to get home. So a lot of people trying to get home in this book.
All right, I'm going to go with a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe, which is the book that Die Hard's based on. Our main character, Joe Leland. It's not John McClane in the book. It's Joe Leland for some reason. He's trying to get home on Christmas, hanging out. We'll try to find his daughter in her daughter in the book also. And hijinks occur. And by hijinks, I mean like necks are breaking, people are like blowing stuff up. It's a standard family Christmas.
All right. The next one is We Three Kings, which is a book featuring a trio of main characters. And I'm going to go with the super obvious and go with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And I went with this one in particular because I feel like this is really where, like, the trio becomes, like, very solidly, like, the main characters. Like, the first two, it's kind of like Harry Potter and his schmucky friends.
That's actually the original title.
But, like, by this one, it's, like, really the friendship. And
it's more like Hermione and her schmucky friends by this point.
Right. But it really becomes, like, the trio and how they each have, like, you know, certain skills and assets that, like, make it advantageous and they help each other out. And so this one's really where I think, like, they become the trio.
Although Ron doesn't really do much of anything.
Ron never does anything except be Ron.
Just hang on the coattails.
He's loyal.
Which one is this? Did you pick?
Azkaban.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm going to go with Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
Oh.
And that features such characters as me, and then also Earl, and then also the Dying Girl. And this is a little bit like if The Fault in Our Stars was good, that would be Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
Well, a little more authentic, I think.
More authentic, less pretentious, just
funnier.
Like the characters are much more grounded, and they don't do ridiculous crap that like is completely implausible, and it is funnier in a more like natural way. It's just generally a superior book, and I really like that book. It's excellent.
The difference, I think, with Me and Earl and the Dying Girl versus Fault in Our Stars is that the Dying Girl and like her illness is sort of like seen through someone else's eyes, and she doesn't have any real agency. But I don't really feel like Hazel or whatever has any agency in Fault in Our Stars either, because I just thought she was so like...
I don't even want to talk about that book. I just say terrible things.
Okay. So 12 Days of Christmas. This is a book with 12 letters in the title. So I went to the first one that I found on my list that had 12 letters in the title, and that was Drawing Blood. And this is a book by Poppy Z. Bright, and it's a horror novel set like in the New Orleans area, I think, or Savannah maybe. And it's about like this girl or guy, I can't remember, I think it's a guy, whose dad was a jazz-loving comic book artist who went completely insane. I think he like murdered his family or something. It's been a long time since I read these. I used to love Poppy Z. Bright, and I just haven't read anything of hers in years. But I really, really liked Lost Souls and Drawing Blood. So, yeah, that's mine. Do you need me to pause so you can count? Or can you count quickly?
Llama in a Barn is a classic
Hold on.
book. All right, so we did some quick counting, and the first thing we could come up with that was 12 letters is Frankenstein. So, you know, what are you going to do? Llama in a Barn maybe is a better book, but it's not a real book that I'm aware of. So I'm going to go with Frankenstein. Look, I've talked about this book before. Everybody knows this book. I ain't going to say nothing about it. It's excellent. Read the book. You haven't read it. You probably already read it.
The next one is In the Bleak Midwinter, which is not a Christmas Carol, I know. So I got to look that up. And this is a book set in the winter time or in a snowy place. So I'm going with Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, which is a very cute Christmas story, and also watch the version on Netflix. It's amazing. It's adorable. Apparently there's like 2 more, and I'm kind of like tempted to read them, but also afraid it will just be like more of the same, and it will like lose its charm if I read more of them. So half of me wants to read them because the third one's set in London, so like kind of want to read them, but also like very, very scared that it will just ruin what I love about it. You have one?
Yes. Which one will I
The
go
Shining?
with? No, that would have been a pretty good. I'm going to go with the literary classic X-Zombies. Zombies, but spelled with an X.
I thought you were going to go with Ethan Frome.
All the white spaces would have worked too. But no, I'm going with X-Zombies. Basically, they travel to zombie apocalypse. Not very creative, but regardless, they go to Antarctica to try to avoid these zombies, and it works out because zombies, when they get cold, they don't move so much. They just all smash them with a little hammer into shattered pieces. They grind them up, and then they make zombie ice cream out of them, which is unhealthy.
All right.
Then they turn to ice cream zombies. None of this happens. Well, the snow part does.
Okay, so anyway, moving on. Blue Christmas, which is a book with a all blue cover. So the first one that came up on my Goodreads list was The Archived by Victoria Schwab. And this is actually really interesting because I read this book when it came out, like before it came out. I had gotten an arc of it. And I was like, oh, this is a really good book. And I remember saying to a couple people, I bet this writer is going to be really popular. She's just got a lot going for her. I think she's going to be like the next big thing. And she was the next big thing. This book wasn't, but all of her stuff after that became super, super popular.
Just got archived?
I haven't read any of her other books because I started like the second book after this and I just wasn't that into it. But this one I really liked. So I called it. She's successful. So, yeah.
Great. So I originally was going to do The Lovely Bones, but she already mentioned The Lovely Bones, so that kind of crapped on that idea. So instead I'm going to use a book that I never use, that this one uses all the time.
Zombies is also blue.
But I can't use it twice, but I love this book. There's one copy, I have a copy of this book that's all blue, and Then There Were None.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool cover, and probably the best mystery book of all time. Again, we've talked about this enough. If you love mysteries, this is one of the best, if not the best, ever.
So the next is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and it's a plot that deals with bullying. So I debated. I was thinking of going with 13 Reasons Why, but I was just scrolling through the list, and the next thing that came up was Daisy Darker. And so her family definitely bullies her, and her sisters especially. So I'm going to go with Daisy Darker. Very sad book. Deals a lot with bullying, deals a lot with like just dysfunctional families, but also with a murder mystery. So it's got pretty much everything I love. It's got like coming of age, overcoming, sort of dealing with bullying, dealing with like a lot of teen drama and, all that kind of girls dealing with stuff. I like girls dealing with stuff books. And then also a murder mystery. You're going to go with 13 Reasons Why?
There are better options. What?
Or It.
I thought about It. I didn't think of 13 Reasons Why. I was thought I might just go with The Body, because there's definitely some bullying elements in that story that are pretty interesting. They're obviously much better developed in the movie. Actually, the bullying parts are kind of also glossed over in the movie and the book. So that part's similar. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to go with The Body. We got some older kids picking on some younger kids. It's pretty standard stuff. Good times.
All right. The next one is Hark, the Herald Angels Sing. And this is a book that has a portrayal of the spiritual world. So I'm going with The Mystery of Raspberry Hill, which was something I recently read. It's a middle grade book set in Finland around like the early 1900s. And it's about a young girl who has consumption and is at a sanatorium. And there was a fire where a lot of the kids in that wing had died. And they're essentially haunting the place. And they play a pretty major role in the plot of the story. So, ghosts, those are spiritual. I had a really hard time at first because I was like, oh, I don't read spiritual books. And then I was like, oh, that's right. Ghosts are spiritual.
Yeah, I'm going to take the same move, basically. I'm going to go with Woman in Black, which is a very super awesome, cool ghost story. Great
really
mood.
Great play.
The play is amazing. And yeah, there's a ghost. Or is there a ghost? Is there not a ghost? Is there two ghosts? Anyway, it's spiritual in a ghosty way, and it's an awesome, tense read.
All right, so the next one is It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, and a story that manipulates time in some way. And so there are a lot of different ways I thought about. I was going to go for like a traditional time travel book, but I decided to go with 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, because again, it was the next thing that came up on my Goodreads list. And actually, this does really deal with time, because essentially, to solve this locked room murder mystery, this character is essentially like at the end of every day reliving the day, but in a new person. one out of the suspects and the people who are at this party where Evelyn Hardcastle is murdered. So it's got like the Groundhog Day thing, which is definitely still a manipulation of time. So
speaking of manipulating time, pause this. It's like,
all right, we're back.
All right, this is again pretty obvious, maybe too obvious. I feel like there's other ones that are less that I've read that I can't get my brain around what they are, so I'm just gonna go forget it and just do the
Hitchhiker's Guide. Isn't that time travel?
No.
Oh.
Space travel, no time travel.
Oh.
Not that I recall anyway. But the Time Machine has time travel in it, as you probably would have guessed, due to the title being The Time Machine. So things don't work out so great for him. Don't time travel, boys and girls. Is there a Back to the Future book? There should be.
There's a Harry Potter. She has that time.
The time turner thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, blorp.
Time Machine. All right. And then the last one is Carol of the Bells. And this is a book where there's a plot where music is a key element. And I'm going to go with Old Boys, which is something I read earlier this year and I really loved. It's about a guy and his dad's like an aging rock star. And like their relationship, a lot of the struggles in their relationship deal with like because of the fact that the guy's a rock star and he, music's important to him. But one of the connections they had was playing the drums. And so that's something that like he's kind of stopped doing, but he's gotten back into when he's spending time with his dad and he's like rediscovering his love of music. So huge part of the plot. Could have gone with, I don't know if Sir Chunk's going to steal this. I was going to say I could have gone with High Fidelity, but I don't know. What are you thinking?
I'm going to go with Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge part of it.
It's all about music. The chapters are broken up by like songs and stuff, and it's all about their connection through various types of music and stuff. I didn't really like this book that much.
Same authors as Dash and Lily.
Yeah, Dash and Lily I like better, but of course I only watched the movie. I didn't read the book, so I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't like the book. Maybe I love the book. Who knows? But anyway, this is a pretty cool book if you're into like music and stuff, because they really dive into it and talk about a lot. It's a major part of the plot.
And it's another scavenger hunty kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is fun. It's always fun, scavenger hunt stuff. All right, so that's it. That was the, Carol of the Books book tag. And yeah, this is probably our last thing before Christmas, except for our Christmas wishes.
Vlogmas.
Yeah, so and happy Festivus.
Oh yeah, happy Festivus.
All right.
Don't forget your air grievances.
Okay,
Boop.
bye.
Boop.